You ever call an agent and you're like, do you have any offers? And they're like, oh no, but we just have a ton of interest. The property's been on the market for like 30 days. It's like, okay, you have zero interest and you have zero offers. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt, that is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, Thursday, October 15th. We're halfway through October. Have you seen those memes where it's like, it goes January 2020, April 2020, March 2020, March 2nd, 2020, and it's like the whole year has basically been like March and April.
Yeah.
And then July, August, September just completely flew by, and now we're thinking about Thanksgiving, and Home Depot is starting to have Christmas decorations.
It's crazy.
So, how's your October going?
It's going okay. Still, my main focus right now is still my house, and I don't know if people realize how much crap they have, but I'm still like 2 weeks in, walking through my house. I'm like, what am I going to do with this? What am I going to do with this? There's just so much stuff. And when you move from one house to the other, you might have a storage area that you have all your junk in. Yeah. And then you move that junk into a new house, you don't realize what box it's in. And then you're like, all right, now it's sitting in my living room. What am I going to, I don't want this.
You take your junk from one house to the next house.
Yeah. Advice, just get rid of your junk, man. Just throw it away. Try to purge as much. We purged a lot, but there's still so much.
Hopefully you get in and all moved in by the holidays.
Yeah, we're in. We just now ordered furniture and all that stuff, and now that's going to take a long time because of COVID. There's delays and everything. But
do you have any December holiday, winter travel plans? Do you guys do something? Do you go up north? Do you go south?
Usually we have Battle Christmas, which is a week after Christmas.
In the Berg.
In the Berg. We all go to the Berg, get the Battle family together. It's called Battle Christmas.
Well, I'm trying to predict Shawn's Christmas plans. So it looks like he's going to be in the Berg. But the first topic of today's show is winter real estate predictions, Shawn, because demand seemingly is high in certain markets. Inventory is creeping up there in certain markets, and now we're heading to the slowest time of the year. And I had a client call me this morning about a condo in Roslyn, and we were talking, and she's like, you don't sound too optimistic. Like, well, I'm going to be honest with you.
That's
and,
it.
If you want to do something in December for your condo, you may have a hard time. So, Shawn, with what you're seeing in the Northern Virginia real estate market, what are some predictions that you can throw out there for, let's say, last week of November until last week of December?
We're still going to see listings coming on. The listings that come on need to be priced correctly. Now, I'm going to start with the condo market. The condo market is languishing. It's just, there's a lot on the market. There's a lot for people to choose from. So if you've got a new listing coming on, if you're coming on, you need to price that thing correctly. What I see is going to happen is there's a ton on the market. I think people are going to start pulling those off. You're going to see price drops, which we've already started seeing. But now the people that don't really need to sell are going to be pulling them off. And they're going to wait the 60 days to refresh their listing, and they're going to try out the spring market. So what's going to happen is inventory, we're still going to see things come on, but then come off. So I think inventory will start falling a little bit in the condo realm. And then we're going to see a huge uptick of listings for the spring.
A real estate agent may tell you it's always a good time to buy or sell. There's no time like the present. You're not going to have any competition. Guys, let's just stop with the nonsense. There is a good and a bad time to sell. And I want to touch on 2 points. I'm going to tell you the points and then talk about them so I don't forget them. One is a house in North Arlington. The other is foreclosure. So first of all, this house in North Arlington, I'm going to try to take my ego out of it. I went on a listing presentation. Me and the seller did not connect. No hard feelings. I didn't even follow up with her simply because it wasn't the right match. And I just thought to myself, if I flipped a coin and said to myself, do I want this listing? The answer would have been no, just because it just wasn't the right match. But the reason I'm telling this story is because Shawn, what's the most desired type of property in Arlington?
Single-family home.
Single-family house in North Arlington in this exact school district. So when I did the listing presentation, she asked if she needed to paint. I said, you don't need to paint. The house, it needed some work. The next person that moves in is going to do a lot of work. You don't need to paint. Matt, what should I list the property at? And I said, $799. And she goes, interesting. That is significantly below every other agent that I met with. Like, okay, well, I'm going to tell you exactly what I feel. This is a house 3 blocks away from where my buyers closed on about 2 weeks ago. So I said $799, that's where you need to be. We went our separate ways. The property is now on the market. It's been on the market for 3 weeks at $875. So not letting my ego get in the way of it, but to Shawn's point, pricing is huge. You'd rather have buyers bump that price up. Now you're going to be sitting on the market, and we're coming up into November. The second point is foreclosures, because a lot of people are waiting. When are the foreclosures going to come? I'm going to buy a foreclosure. What's going to happen with foreclosure numbers? And depending on where you look, foreclosure numbers, right now they're down simply because there is a moratorium on foreclosures for some government-backed loans that may expire on December 31st, depending on what ends up happening. So right now, foreclosure numbers are down. But we have to remember, compared to 2008, 2009, when the market last saw significant foreclosures, the biggest difference is the amount of equity that people have in their homes. So they don't necessarily have to, walk out and sell to a bank. Even if they're not making payments, they still have enough of a delta. So I think in the winter, you're not going to see that many foreclosures, but I think the foreclosure process will start to occur in the next 18 months or so.
Yeah, the single-family market is still going to be strong throughout the winter. I don't think we're going to see a stop to it. We will see a little bit slower listings, because some people don't like to list in the winter, especially if the weather gets too cold, whatever. But if you do, the property's still going to sell. I think there's still going to be a big demand for single-family and townhouse listings throughout the area. And then we're going to hit the spring market again, and it's going to start all over again. I think that single-family market is just going to keep ripping for a while, especially the interest rates. They're so good right now. If they stay where they are, it's just going to keep feeding things. So single-family market, great. Condo market, we're going to see a pullback of listings because people are going to pull them off, and then they're going to retry in the spring.
Yeah, I think some of these sellers for condos are going to get low offers, which are reasonable offers in this type of market. And they're just going to say, we're going to wait until the new year. And maybe you're thinking, well, why don't they just try to rent it? Well, in my building, there's 15 rentals on the market right now. There's 11 two-bedrooms priced from $2,500 to $3,100. So if you're in that $2,700 range, you're competing against maybe 7 other two-bedrooms that are within $100 range. So, renting instead of selling, it's really a no-brainer. Probably not the best idea. It's probably better to wait, see what the new year has to offer, and go from there.
Yeah, it's putting a lot of people in a bind because, normally when the buying market, the selling market isn't very good, you can always rely on the rental market,
right,
because that's usually pretty good. Now we're both kind of slow, and the rental market, I think, is even slower. And so all of these people that have vacant condos or vacant, it's really the condo market, they're not going to be able to rent it either. And so they're holding on and making these payments, and it's going to be, But if you're looking to sell, like we said, make sure you do it and you price it right and you make it look great, because there's still new ones coming on and the good ones are going.
I'm not sure if I've given an exact prediction. What I think is going to happen in Northern Virginia is I think that there are going to be more withdrawn and more expired listings, especially in the townhouse and condo market. I know we're hitting on condos. If you're in the townhome market and there's 3 other townhomes on your row, on your block, that are also on the market, guys, you're competing in a very small area. So you have to do your research. Don't look at these big numbers. Don't look at Northern Virginia as a whole. Don't look at the DMV area. Look at your subdivision and then make a decision of whether you should list now, have no competition, or list in the springtime.
That's right.
The second topic that we're going to talk about, realtors' favorite talking point, FSBOs.
FSBOs.
For sale by owner. And this is not a FSBO bashing session, much to our chagrin. This is going to be helpful tips where if you're a for sale by owner, hopefully when you watch this will be helpful for you. So Inman has an article on the 6 reasons why FSBOs fail epically. Love the clickbait title, Shawn. I could not have come up with something better myself. Number 1, bad pricing.
Absolutely. It always seems that FSBOs overprice their properties every time, because you know why? Owners know everything about their property, and they're of course going to be worth so much more than the other person because it's what they've done to the house, right? Truthfully, they're always pretty much on the high side, and this is the worst thing you can do in a market like this. Yeah, you could probably sell your house by yourself right now in a hot market, right? In a hot market, it's a lot easier, but typically what they do is they overprice it, and they're not going to see any people through.
I love when the owners like really harp on something that like no one cares about. They're like, look at this really nice fence. Like the fence itself is worth this amount. It's like, all right, well, you only have 1 bathroom. So until you get another bathroom, don't talk to me about the fence.
Exactly.
Number 2 on why FSBOs fail epically is a lack of marketing. Do you think they're doing videos?
They're not doing, yeah, no, absolutely not. They're not doing much, and like Matt and I do, we do videos, we do everything. We're hitting social media so hard on your listing with video content, with pictures. We're doing it on vlogs or websites in the area. We're pushing it there. We're pushing it everywhere possible. And not only that, we have the great content to push out to realtors as well.
If you asked a FSBO what their marketing strategy is, what do you think they would say?
Zillow? I don't know. I'm going to put it on Zillow. I'm going to put a sign in my front yard, and I'm going to make out a printout on my computer.
Red, yeah, like Sharpie, like call this number.
Hey, look what I did. You have a red and white sign out front for sale, and they'll have a 1-page document that has all these pictures on it that they created themselves and said, wow, look what I made.
Number 3, I think that's pretty accurate. Number 3 is no access. Shawn, have you ever tried scheduling like 4 showings and then the 5th one is a FSBO?
Yes.
What ends up happening there?
We never get to see it. Or like, oh, can you come tomorrow at 3? No, I can't come tomorrow at 3, and neither can my clients. You have to make it readily available, and that's the main thing about real estate is getting as many people in, especially that first weekend or first 2 weeks on the market. You have to be so flexible to get these people in, and the norm is, not only are they tight on their pricing, but they're tight on showing the property. And so getting people in is key, and I've always had trouble showing them.
Definitely. Number 4, inability to talk money. And Shawn, what this is referencing is prospects versus real buyers. Someone that calls up, hey, I want to see the house in an hour, or hey, I want to see it, next weekend. Can we go out and look? Meanwhile, their lease doesn't expire for a year and they're not pre-qualified. What experience do you have with random people calling about random listings?
Well, I've actually talked to for sale by owner people before, and actually that was one of my first listings I ever had. Was I approached a for sale by owner. Nice. I'm like, do you really want to be doing this by yourself? And she's like, no, not really. Got the listing. Anyways, talking money. Yeah, we're going through the buyers.
Right.
I've talked to many for sale by owner people, and they're like, oh yeah, I have this person interested in this person interested in it. I'm like, when you actually dig down into it, they're really not interested. They've got a lot of hoops to go through, and that's our job as real estate agents representing a buyer, is getting our buyer ready. And then we show the properties to those people. There's going to be a lot of people that are just like willy-nilly, hey, I want to see this house, let's go. Oh, I love it. But I'm nowhere close to ready to buy it. And they're not probably being honest with that for sale by owner. They're just like, yeah, I love the house. And a lot of times, what happens is, I don't know if this is one of the things, but the person never leaves the house, right? And so, of course, they're going to be nice to you when they're in the house, when you're in the house.
Right.
But when they leave, they're going to be like, that was so friggin' uncomfortable,
Yeah, sometimes they're just like sitting in the office and they'll like move to another room. When you go into that room, that's the worst way to do it. And what they also talk about is follow-up. And you ever call an agent and you're like, do you have any offers? And they're like, oh no, but we just have a ton of interest. The property's been on the market for like 30 days. It's like, okay, you have 0 interest and you have 0 offers.
Yep.
That's what that reminds me of. Number 5, unrealistic expectations. Shawn, is this just the everything encompassing a for sale by owner, unrealistic expectations?
Yeah, because they're not educated on what an agent really tells them or says what is normal, right? So maybe when it comes to the home inspection, there might be some significant problems, but that person, just like their price, they might be unwilling to do anything. Or, I guess that's one example. What else are they citing in there?
Yeah, I think it comes down to motivation. I mean, when you see these for sale by owner properties that have been on the market for 100 days, in North Arlington, you got to ask yourself, does the seller really want to sell? Or are they just in love with this property because they bought it in Arlington in 1992 and it's appreciated $800,000?
And they haven't done one thing to it.
And they haven't done one thing to it.
Yeah, and they're looking at their neighbor that sold for 1.3 million, and they're asking 1.35, and theirs is a dump, and the other one isn't. Or they've done these things that. Another thing that they do is they don't get rid of the personal touches, right? So when we sell a property, we like to repaint it so that it looks, there's too many colors going on, and what I've noticed with a lot of even sellers that I deal with, I'm like, listen, we got to tone things down. Well, that for sale by owner is not going to know that, and they're not going to do it, and so there's another problem.
Number 6, the final reason why FSBOs fail epically: agent avoidance. Maybe they're not paying a commission. Maybe they're not working with a buyer's agent.
Yeah.
Have you dealt with sellers that don't pay the commission?
I have, and I didn't show it. I mean, but I have in other instances where they didn't offer a commission and I showed it because I thought there's no way my buyer's gonna want this property, and turned out thankfully they didn't. But in that instance I would just work my payment into the contract or have them sign something in advance that says they're going to pay something if we do right. But there isn't an agent avoidance on a second level because we do all the work then, right? So you think, all right, what's a buyer's agent or a listing agent is going to negotiate and do all this other stuff and deal with the settlement companies and things like that, whereas when it's just one agent, then it kind of like we're taking on a lot more responsibility or a lot more of the tasks. And I've dealt with some in the past where I was just like, I felt responsible that I had to tell this person, hey, you have to go do this, and it's not our job. We're not representing the seller. We're representing the buyer, and you're going to get yourself into a lot of trouble if you don't know what you're doing, because honestly, we know the laws and the rules of real estate, and if you haven't done real estate a lot, you will get taken advantage of in those situations. Because think about this, you might not know the HOA laws or the rules on how many days you have and things like that. I mean, I could have totally taken advantage of situations.
Yeah, sometimes as an agent you have to pull, both sides, lift both weights on both ends of the transaction.
And one other thing I'll say about that is they always follow you around the house, right? And they're always talking too much. No one wants to hear you talk when they're going through a house. I personally, when I'm showing a house, I don't talk much. I'll point out a few things that I think that are relevant, but mostly buyers want to take this in, right? They're thinking of their own thing inside their minds of, can I live in this place? But when you've got an owner that thinks they love this place and they're going to tell you every little detail about these counters and, I put these in 1987, and our people are going to be like, get me out of here. And that's exactly how they felt every time. Get me out of here.
Please stop talking. Yeah. In 2016, I was this close to closing on a for sale by owner where I mailed a building. Owner got back to me. We showed the property. And then he said, I'm not going to pay a commission because I didn't hire you. And, the thing was, he's selling his property. He wants to sell. He's looking for a buyer. I am helping him. I brought a buyer, and he did not want to pay. And I don't think he realized that every single comparable property that we were emailing back and forth included a buyer's commission. So buyer ended up not moving forward. We didn't get a ratified deal done. But, if you're FSBO, it can definitely work. But hopefully those tips and tricks will help you out if you do go solo on that. Let's finish it off with, Shawn, the top 10 in-person showing turnoffs. So you mentioned talking, someone following you around. Inman has an article out on the top 10 showing turnoffs. Number 1 is odors in the property. What happens when you open up the front door and you get a strong whiff of whatever?
Instant turnoff. And I've got a pretty strong nose. Number 1, I think we talked about this last week, smoking. If you're still smoking in your house, you're going to have a real big problem selling that place. And it takes a lot to get that smoke smell out of it. And, you've got to rip out carpets, your furniture stinks, everything stinks, get rid of it. Another thing is, I actually went to one of my clients' places I was showing my own listing, and it smelled like they cooked fish in the place, right? And do you ever see those commercials, you're nose blind? You're definitely nose blind. I walked out of my house this morning and walked back in, and I smelled breakfast, So you have to walk outside your house, walk back in, and see if there's a smell, because we are going to smell it instantly when we walk through, and it's an instant check in their mind. Ugh, negative.
It's distracting.
Very distracting. And don't try to cover it up either. People will put all these crazy smells, the plugins and everything. I've smelled the same plugin in 90,000 different homes. Don't use that plugin, right?
Yeah.
So be careful on what you're using to fragrance your house.
Very easy on the plugins.
Yeah.
Number 2 is pets.
Pets, yeah.
The old dog smell.
Dog smell is awful.
Maybe dog hair.
Not only dog smell, but keeping your dog home during showings, it barking, yapping. Yeah, it could be in a crate. Some people leave it in the crate. Best thing to do is get that dog or animal out of there. I've had clients have multiple animals. Usually they'll take the dog for a walk, or they'll put the cats in somebody else's house for a while. And that's the best thing you can do. Animals are a distraction. Think about you're trying to attract the masses. A lot of people don't want pets. They don't want pets in their house that they're buying. So try not to have them in there.
Number 3 is pests, bugs.
Bugs, yeah. Okay, bugs.
For this one, I notice bug traps, like mouse traps.
Yes.
Like if you have mouse traps or like rodent, not rodent, but like cockroach, like strips or something in your cabinets, those gotta go. I know my brother, he might be watching this, but he was renting his condo in 2013. And he's like, any suggestions? I was like, maybe move the cockroach traps out of the condo when we're showing it.
That's right. So if you have, there are definitely houses out there and people out there that have problems, right? So you have it, but take it out before you start showing it. I was showing places out a little bit, and as you get out a little bit, things change. And I actually walked through a house with a fly strip in it. Remember this? Did you ever see a fly strip? It's this sticky strip that hangs from your ceiling, and flies are attracted to it and they stick to it. Don't do that, guys. Get those things out of there. So yeah, pests, not good.
Number 4, popcorn ceilings and acoustic tile ceilings.
We talk about this all the time.
Popcorn.
Popcorn is gross. In a lot of the condos that we sell, there's popcorn ceilings, and I've learned a lot of ways to get rid of this. And to sand it off is one thing. That's a really messy way to do it. Number 2 would be to go over it with a really thin piece of drywall. You can get a quarter inch drywall. It's going to bring your ceilings down a little bit, but it's going to get rid of the popcorn ceiling. The last thing to do is get it wet and scrape it. And I think that's probably the cleanest way, but get rid of the popcorn ceilings. No one wants them. A nice clean ceiling. I just did it in a listing. It cost about, for the whole place, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, about $800 to get rid of it. Not bad. And then you repaint it. It looks amazing.
Call Shawn when you want your ceilings done. He's got all the ideas. Number 5, wall-to-wall carpeting.
Gross. Yeah. Somebody else's carpet is like using somebody else's towel to dry off after you get out of the shower. It's like, think about how many feet and whatever have been all over that carpet for years. I don't want your old carpet, and no one else does either. And I think that naturally the best way to go is hardwood floors. We know it's expensive, but it's going to show cleaner, it's going to show crisp, and you're not going to have the smell and the old nastiness of old.
If it's in carpet. The bedroom, maybe you do carpet. If it's in the living room, hardwood. What if it's carpet everywhere and you're going to replace everything? Do you do the hardwood throughout the bedrooms, or do you stop in the living room? And
depends on the property. If it's a single-family home, I would say, maybe the master, you stick with hardwood. The landings, you stick with hardwood. The main level, hardwood. The other bedrooms, I would do carpet. If it's a condo, I would probably try to do hardwood throughout, depending on the size of it. But that's my opinion.
Number 6, outdated heating systems. Radiators.
Yeah, radiator heat. That's big in some of the old homes in Arlington. No one wants those things. Granted, they're good heat, right? They're really a good heat for your house, but they're they're obtrusive, and no one wants to look at this big thing, especially like in the bathroom. Your heater's right next to your toilet. It's awesome.
Right.
It keeps you warm, but no one wants that thing sitting there. So to upgrade your system, unfortunately, with that type, you have to put some vents in the house. You might do one of the smaller air conditioning systems, but upgrading is key, and it's going to cost some money. It could be $15,000 to upgrade it, but it might be worth it.
Number 7 is cracks in the walls.
Cracks in the walls. So older homes are built with plaster. Plaster cracks, and it cracks based on hot and cold. You go through those things. It's really easy to go through and have a professional come in, respackle things, and repaint over. So cracked walls, always, it doesn't matter how small they are, buyers ask about it every time. And normally it's nothing to worry about, because most of the time it is just from weather, the hot and cold, like I said. But repairing those and not hiding something is the way to go.
Number 8, unpermitted upgrades.
Yeah, unpermitted upgrades.
So I know in condos, you're going to get a violation if you do something in the covenant committee or the covenant subcommittee did not issue an approval, so they may have to retroactively approve it. And if it's something that's not allowed, you're going to have to remove that before closing. Also, for outdoor townhome, exteriors. For houses, we can see it sometimes, but when I think of unpermitted upgrades, I'm thinking of like West Virginia, kind of like extension cords, like running everywhere, like random bathrooms some places. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so this was big. When I started, it was a lot bigger than it is now, I think. But there's definitely people out there that are still finishing their places. And if you think about it, there's a lot of handy guys that are like, hey, I can do this myself. I'm just going to do it. Put up some studs in the walls, put up some drywall, good to go. But it's a no-no. You're going to have to, when an agent comes through or we do a home inspection, that home inspector is going to know if it was done correctly or not. And then we're going to look at we'll go through the tax records and the online reports to see if there are any permits pulled for the work that was done. And if there isn't, then guess what? We're going to say, hey, I want you to get this permitted or approved by the county before we're going to purchase it. That's just going to cause you hell in the end, right? So you might as well do it right, get the permits down. And there's definitely houses. I showed one a couple of years, like 2 years ago, and the agent was up front, and it was brand new, updated property. And I was like, was this permitted? And they're like, no, we didn't. No permits were pulled. So my buyer was like, see ya.
What do you do there in that situation?
Walk away.
You walk away.
Or have a home inspector in there and, or force them to get the permits, Yeah. I mean, I don't really want to go and buy something that somebody else has done that, could have been some guy that doesn't know what he's doing, especially electrical work, things like that. You got to really be careful.
Yeah. Number 9 is locked rooms.
Oh, locked rooms.
So I'm doing a home inspection later today at a property in Arlington, and during the showing, one of the rooms was locked, and that room has the water heater. So it's going to be unlocked this time around, but clearly the flags start going up. Why is this room not accessible during a showing?
Yeah. If you're going to put your house on the market, you have to make the whole thing show ready. I've been through this many times where you might have, one of your kids in a room that's a total mess, and you just lock them in there. They lock their door, and you can't see the second, third bedroom. That's ridiculous. And it happens a lot. And you have to have the whole thing accessible. There's definitely been times where I've gone through things and a door accidentally got locked from a prior showing. The agent ran over there, unlocked it. We have to see everything. We're not going to buy a house seeing 2/3 of the house.
It is a little, creepy, like, snooping through someone else's stuff,
Sure.
But that is the reality. You're buying a house, you want to look in the closets. That's pretty standard. And then number 10 is odds and ends. So things like peeling paint, musty basements, and in this ever-growing age of liberation, marijuana plants. So take care of the small things so the buyers don't ask about the small things.
You have to be meticulous about the small things. Those little, go through your house and then have your friend come through their house, and they'll be hopefully a little more honest. Then have your agent come through. We're going to have a totally different set of eyes. You've been living in your house for a long time. We're going to see the things that you don't. And you have to be meticulous about it because the buyers are going to notice it, and it's going to give you a negative. And so be meticulous about it. Paint, spackle, do all the things that you need to do. Pull out your marijuana plants.
Don't have those for showing.
Don't smoke marijuana before showing. I've had that happen.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, you name it, we've seen it, right? And so, just don't do these things. Come on.
Cool. Well, there you have it. Top 10 ways to alienate a buyer. So don't do that. Hopefully, in this video, you'll learn about the winter real estate market in Northern Virginia. If you're a FSBO, 6 tips on FSBO failures, and then showing tips. So for Shawn and myself, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.